as we go through this. So those are the rules and a reminder, and we're going to begin with opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Van Zandt and Addison Davis, would you give them a round of applause for participating? We're going to begin with opening statements, 2 minutes, and just strictly by virtue of alphabetical order, Mr. Davis, if you'd begin.
So, good evening, and thank everyone for being here. For those of y'all who do not know me, I'll tell you about who I am personally and professionally. Personally, I've lived in Clay County for the last 12 years. I live in Oakley Plantation. I'm there with my lovely wife, Natalie. Natalie, where are you at? If you wave your hand. She is my common sense, my everything. For 15 years we've been married. I have 2 daughters. 15-year-old that is a freshman at Oakley Senior High School, and then I have a 10-year-old that attends Chimney Lakes Elementary School. For me professionally, I've been an educator my entire life. I've been in education for the last 17 years. In that time, I've got a master's degree in educational leadership. I went on to become a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal supervisor, and I'm currently the chief of schools, which I lead 160 schools, every principal supervisor, in every facet of the school system. Is there a teacher, any teachers in here? Will you please stand up? Please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause for what they do. And thank you for everything that you do and all the support you may receive. From this point on, teachers, I can tell you this. You will have a leader that understands your craft. You will have a leader that truly understands how to help you working side by side to elevate our experience for our students, to help them learn emotionally, socially, academically, intellectually. I will be there because I've done this. I'm a proven leader. In addition, you will have a leader that opens the door and has an open line of communication. We will listen to your voice. We will problem solve together. You will not have a leader that leads in intimidation. You will not have a leader that walks in your classroom and asks you for your support. You will have a leader that loves and understands and does everything in the best interest of our students. You will have a leader that's committed to improving teaching and learning. You will have a leader that understands every aspect of our community, every aspect of our school system, every aspect of our curriculum in order to elevate your experiences. I'm passionate about my job. You can tell right now. You can tell. I'm an educator. I'm not a politician. I wasn't born in a politician's family. I'm here because I love children and I love accelerating student achievement. My name is Addison Davis, and I'm your next superintendent.
Good evening. I'm Charlie Van Zandt, your Superintendent of Schools here in Clay County. And I stand before you tonight, a grateful product of our school system. My journey in the Clay County school system started in 1981 when my mother, Judy, who was terminally ill with cancer, enrolled me in Keystone Heights Elementary School. At that time, I met my teacher, and about 3 years later, my mother passed, tragically. However, the reason that it's important to me, the reason the Clay County school system is so wrapped around my spine and in my DNA, is from that point forward, my teachers, my coaches, my counselors surrounded me not with just the academic support, but the love and the rest of the support that they basically anchored for the community at that time. And I want that for every student that walks through our doors. We're grown to about 37 students now in the Clay County school system. I successfully graduated from high school in 1988. The next year I began my career in the Florida Army National Guard and my education at the University of Florida, where I met my beautiful wife Stephanie, who's back there by the front door. We've been married 22 years now. Our children are not real politically involved. They're outside throwing a football or a frisbee, but they're in Clay County schools. I hold a master's degree in organizational leadership. I've served in the Florida National Guard for 27 years. I'm rated in a couple of advanced aircraft called the Apache and the Black Hawk. I'm a graduate of Command and General Staff College. I'm the only one on the stage tonight that is leading a successful school district as the superintendent and hold both levels of superintendent certification available under Florida statute. When I came to you 4 years ago, I asked you to help me work on our lagging graduation rate and our financial stability issues. We have improved both greatly and are now an A-rated school district. Our graduation rates have surpassed the national average for the first time ever.
Thank you, sir. not to get too far down the road, you can't use a rebuttal card on an opening statement.
I can buy 6 more of these.
And my price was too high for it.
I know.
So, Mr. Van Zandt, since Mr. Davis got to go first, I'll give you the option at the end for closing, whether you want to go first or last. You can save that until we're done. And we're going to begin here. Mr. Van Zandt, if you'll begin with your response here. What's your plan to achieve financial stability and continue improving the district's financial position? And maybe specific to that, what innovative fiscal approaches could you take as superintendent to ensure teachers' salaries are increased?
Great question, Ken. There's a chart back there behind that dapper-looking young man with the Clay County Schools budgets for the past decade. You'll notice that the last 3 years, the budget's actually balanced, which means we have not spent more revenue than we've brought in. When you're in a hole, the first thing you must do is stop digging. Prior to my superintendency, we had revenue exceeding, we had expenditures exceeding revenue every year. So we've stopped spending money we don't have. You have to do that in your homes. We had to do it in the school district. Moving forward, we're aggressively evaluating each position that doesn't touch a student and doesn't carry a student course load. In the past 2 years, we've reduced the district office expenditures by 25%. We've gone from about $8 million salary and benefits package down to $6 million. Only 4.5% of our 5,000 employees are not in a school, and by the Department of Education's rating, we are second in the state on revenue earned that is spent in the classroom.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
So we talked about doing an internal audits. We talked about having a third party come in to do audits to look at it, duplication and waste of funding. But I'll tell you, your superintendent currently has had 3.5 years to get it right and to compensate our teachers, and we haven't done that yet. So we can make sure that we talk about duplication. We ought to be able to, your enrollment is increasing, absolutely. You are getting increased funding every single year because the state's giving you more money per pupil. But what are we doing? We say that we're conservative. There's no way we're fiscal conservative because we continue to spend more money than what we have internally. And we're not compensating teachers, and we're not compensating support staff, and we're not looking at positions that are outside of the schoolhouse. You want to talk about innovation, which is part of our top 10 plan? Why don't we go ahead and look at and try to attract our students who are going to private schools and charter schools and bring them back to our school districts, which increases funding, which means we can pay teachers more and we can give them the resources they need to be successful to elevate the experiences.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Van Zandt, you need to say the 30 seconds.
The problem with Mr. Davis's little talk there is that his record simply doesn't match his rhetoric. If he was going to fight for increased teacher salary in Clay County, why has he not done it in Duval County? The average teacher salary in Clay County today is higher than the average teacher salary in Duval County. We have decreased expenditures. We do have a balanced budget. If Mr. Davis had a great plan for financing, he would be doing it in Duval County. The past 3 years, we've not spent one nickel more than we brought in. Duval County, under his leadership, is still...
Mr. Davis, use a rebuttal card. Remember, 30 seconds.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to do our homework. Know that we have 8,500 teachers in Duval County versus 2,500 in Clay County. So when we talk about that, I have probably 3,500 teachers that are in their first 3 years, which means their salaries are lower. In Clay County, people stay longer and you have seasoned teachers, which means that you're going to have a higher average salary than we do in Duval County. But at the end of the day, Addison Davis doesn't drive the entire budget in our county. But what I can tell you is that there's proactive ways to look at our fundings. There's proactive ways to problem solve. There's proactive ways to look at grant funding and in-kind money.
Thank you, sir. Our second question, and Mr. Davis, you can begin here. According to the vision statement of the School District of Clay County, quote, the School District of Clay County exists to prepare lifelong learners for success in a global and competitive workplace and in acquiring applicable life skills. How will you ensure that this vision is a reality for every child?
Yes, ready to go? Clay County is one thing they are doing. They are providing pathways for our learners. We do have in Clay County wall-to-wall academies. I believe that we are providing students with the skill sets of the 21st century learner to prepare our students for a career, college, and life ready. The problem is when we talk about academies, the academies are handcuffing students. We are making sure that a kid who is transferred out of the 8th grade year, they're being forced to select what academy they go through. They have no exposure in middle school or elementary school. There's no continuity, there's no plan, there's no objective. What it is, hey, I'm Addison Davis, I'm into my 8th grade year, what do you want to select? And I'm handcuffed in that process. We should have pathways for every learner. At the end of the day, we should also make sure that not only do we have those programs exposed to elementary and middle school, but we got to focus on college readiness. That means reading college readiness and math college readiness. We've got to be competitive to make sure our kids are taking the SAT, ACT in order to prepare them to be prepared to go into life, career, and more importantly, to college.
Thanks.
That sounds like a question I wrote. To push forward the vision of the Clay County school system, we have to seek out, hire, and retain the highest quality teachers. Our retention rate in Clay County is twice as good as that in Duval today. We only attrit about 7% of our teachers a year. They attrit about 15%. So we're well on our way there. Our top 10 Clay plan includes a collaborative classroom approach in the elementary school level, which most recently, last week, we found out our 3rd graders are reading on grade level at the number 8 position in the state of Florida. So we are in the top 10 for 3rd grade reading proficiency. That is a key indicator. That has such overtones for the rest of that student's academic career, high school graduation rates, and everything else. Our career academies focus on relevancy, and that relevancy has led us to increasing our graduation rates above the national average for the first time ever, and they've increased 9.5% due to that relevancy in the past 4 years.
Thank you.
I'll be out of these soon. So we only get half the story. When we talk about what we've done in 3rd grade, congratulations to the teachers. If you're a 3rd grade teacher, give yourself a round of applause. Great job. But I would take this. It doesn't tell you that Duval County, surrounding counties are outperforming us in 3rd grade. Duval County had a 4% increase. St. John's had a 4% increase. Duval County has 161 schools, half the size, 4th the size of Clay County. We have 115,000 students. On top of that, we talk about graduation rate. He failed to tell you that.
Time, sir. Would you like to use your last rebuttal card and continue? I'll give you 30 seconds. All right, so before I get to this next question, Mr. Van Zandt referenced, that sounds like a question I wrote. Part of the process was asking each of the candidates to submit some questions. I have culled those, I've thrown some out, I've decided those are good, I've melded some of those, but that's where the questions came from, a variety of those things. So there was part of a question that one of these candidates had written in there. Both of them, actually. Okay, all right. Moving on, Mr. Van Zandt, you're going to answer first here. Currently, the district is ranked number 18 in the state of Florida as it relates to the state's accountability system. Clay County has always been a school district ranked in the top 10. Why do you think this has changed? And as superintendent, what steps will you take to improve the status of Clay County school system?
Well, the premise of your question is not correct at all, Kent. We've been 10th one time, I think, in the year 2010. And Mr. Davis has a pretty nice chart that shows 10, 18, 13, all those things. But what it really doesn't show you is that even at an 18th ranking, we were 9 points out of like 600 from being an A, within 2%. You know, Mr. Davis can probably run a little faster than me. He can probably run a 4-minute mile. But if I run a 4-minute, 15-second mile, I'm still running pretty quick. So out of 67 counties and about 74 school districts, and we can get into why there's more districts than counties later, Clay County is one of only 22 that has achieved an A rating under the new Florida standards. So we have a top 10 Clay plan that is working. If you refer to the charts in the back of the room, you'll see some areas where we are already in the top 10, but we're going to achieve that work together through our collaborative classrooms, our STEM, our academies of Clay, and continuing to partner with strong community members.
Thank you.
I would say the top 10 is not working because we went from number 10 to number 19, now to number 18. We continue to spiral down. We see a 16% decrease in reading proficiency and a 16% decrease in math proficiency. That's about leadership, folks. That's also about the curriculum as well. We can do better and we can deserve better. I was going to talk about the graduation rate in my rebuttal. We talked about the 9% the graduation rate increase in Clay County. But let's look at Baker County. They increased 16.8 in the same time. Let's look at Bradford County. They're at 15.8 as well. Let's look at Duval County at 13.3%. Let's look at Alachua at 11%. Don't get half the story, get all the story. We can do better in Clay County, and it's proven by a proven educator that knows how to accelerate student achievement.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have to be really low to improve 16% in your graduation rate. Ours is the highest that it's been in Clay County history. Surprised you keep talking about Duval County because your third grade readers went from 45th to 48th and ours went from 11th to 8th. And if you were so great at picking out curriculum and instruction, maybe they would do better. I don't know. But I do not want this gentleman picking out curriculum for my children in schools. His brother has chosen Engage New York, a Common Core curriculum for Duval County, and we don't want that here.
Mr. Davis, this question to you first. As Clay County continues to grow, school redistricting will need to occur at some point. What will be your process for changing boundary lines?
Yeah, I can say that my process won't be to show up to a board meeting and give an agenda item to try to force reboundary when we haven't engaged the greater community. That's what happened here in Clay County, which is unethical and more importantly, it's unprofessional. As a school leader, we would engage the greater community, faith-based partners, teachers, educators, family members to come together as a working committee. We would ask them to problem solve. We would give them all the data from utilization. We'd give them the projected growth, and we'd give them the challenge to create a recommendation and meet multiple times and take a recommendation and give it back to me as a leader and then present to the board. But we would do everything in collaboration, everything collectively, and we're not doing it in isolation. Currently, the superintendent's working in isolation. And guess what? We had to backpedal and react versus being forward-thinking. If you see all the boards over there, that's because Addison Davis educated the superintendent on how to display data in the first debate in which I won. So the modeling and the practice is actually happening. So, guys, it's good teaching and learning. Thank you for learning.
I think maybe turn your mics back the other way. That's, I think, why we're getting some of the feedback. Mr. Van Zandt, the question is to you. As Clay County continues to grow, school redistricting needs to occur. What's your process for changing the boundary lines?
Our process is to staff the entire geography of Clay County, which is 600 square miles. And first, it's important to realize that the need for classrooms in Clay County grows exponentially faster than the funding to build new schools in Clay County. The Oakleaf area in particular is growing very fast right now. We have school sites and plans to build the schools, physically the architectural plans. We do not have the funding necessary to go build a full school at the moment. So we're looking at a couple of different options, to build out one more elementary school in that area to fix the overcrowding immediately. But the overall process, and it had already begun, and we continue to do it, involved meeting with the community, having stakeholder workshops, and that is part of the process and has always been part of the process.
Mr. Van Zandt, will answer first on this question. What skills, background, or training do you bring to the table with regards to leading in a crisis? For example, what have you done to prepare for an active shooter scenario?
In Clay County, we have done one of the most extensive active shooter drills in the nation. In fact, we were the second school district nationally in 2013, my first full year as school superintendent, to work with Homeland Defense, and we went through the scenario from soup to nuts, if you know the expression. From the very beginning in planning, we worked collaboratively with the county sheriff's office, EMS, every sector of leadership through the school system. And in March of 2015, we actually went through the entire process at Keystone High School. We had leadership from all 41 public schools in Clay County there. And my background as a military officer uniquely has trained me to work in emergency situations. If you pardon the phrase, I've literally been battle hardened, worked in very tumultuous situations that the leadership has to maintain a cool head.
Yeah, it's a great question, and ever since, Stony Brook, we have to be proactive in our efforts. As Chief of Schools, I lead emergency management, and I lead all the school police and security. One thing we have to do is make sure that every school has an aggressive and thought-through emergency management plan. And that management plan identifies roles and responsibilities for every team member in our school, so that we truly understand what to do and what to do during this type of situation. We will partner with the Clay County Sheriff's Office to make certain that we continue to do intruder drills, active shooter drills, so that we can problem solve and our staff can be ready. Those drills, not only will we conduct the drills and lead, but we will also give a written report to the school so they can problem solve and understand what they need to improve in the areas of opportunities, so that we can work with them to make sure they have sound procedures, their doors are locked, their students are down, and we are having constant communication. Another thing I do is I put decon radios in every school. Where that school, when you come on, every principal will hear it, every school senior staff will hear it, so that we can communicate with the Sheriff's Office and also the leadership.
Mr. Davis, if you begin on this, and then Mr. Van Zandt. What is the superintendent's role given the federal government's mandate on transgender locker room and restroom access?
Yeah, so this becomes a political football, and no different than the the flagpole issue. This is another political issue that's trying to create a wedge within our community. This is nothing new for our educators. We've been problem solving since day one. We have been making sure that we have a safe environment for every student and every learner. I made a statement weeks ago, okay? Identical statement to what the superintendent said. The identical statement. I have 2 daughters and I have a wife. And you know where I stand on that. From the other side, though, that we can do better. We continue to problem solve, work with every student, support every student, but at the end of the day, protect the biological sex of every student in our school system.
The superintendent's role, first and foremost, is to provide a safe learning environment for every student. I've said my piece on this. It's on the Clay County YouTube channel. In fact, Mr. Davis should probably use that to write his letter that came out a few days later. But students of whatever their biological makeup is, whatever that 23rd chromosome determines that child is, we'll use that appropriate bathroom or locker room. And this is not about bathrooms. We're going to protect every student, keep them safe and unbullied, but we're not doing carve-outs for less than 1% of the people. This is about a gross federal government overreach, and if I sound a little adamant, I'm just tired of the President of the United States of America shredding our Constitution, and I won't have any part of it.
Mr. Van Zandt, this is for you first, and then you, Mr. Davis. Tell us about your experience with intergovernmental relations, specifically in what ways have you interacted with local, state, federal government entities and officials?
Wow, that's vast. Quickly, to follow up on the safety, unfortunately, about a month ago in Greencoat, we had just a nightmare play out. But because of our teachers and our administrators, our support staff, we even had some guys from WWG Mechanical locked in Charles E. Bennett that helped us out that day. Everything went extremely smooth. Chief Busco, Sheriff Beesmer, and I were talking through the whole situation, communicating, coordinating directly with EMS, and our teachers and school-based personnel did an excellent job because they were trained. We had a great plan. They followed the plan, and I hope that we never have 4 schools on lockdown simultaneously again. The other thing that I've been doing for a couple of decades now, as a school board member and now the superintendent, is interacting with our legislature to kind of keep the worst parts of legislation out of the public arena. And this year, that actually ended up with about a $1 million bump in fixed capital outlay that was carved out from Clay County that nobody else.
Mr. Davis?
So as I said, I don't come from a political family, but I will say, Mr. Van Zant, when you just talked about that I probably duplicated my letter from your speech, I don't know who wrote your speech because you looked down 45 times when you actually read it. So it's no different than our first debate when you read the entire time. But however, I've worked with a number of government agencies, from FBI, from our school police, from JSO, to problem solve. Again, we talked about active shooters, bomb threats, in order to do drills or to walk K-9s through our schools in order to make sure that we have a drug-free environment. So we work collectively. Also, we work with our lobbyists to make sure that we have a legislative momentum, that we've engaged the greater community so that we can go back to Tallahassee and push items such as Common Core and push items that are really true to our hearts so we can continue to elevate the experiences for our students in Clay County.
Thank you. Final question here, and we're going to leave time to make sure that we get a chance to hear your closing statements. Mr. Davis, you can start here. Media has portrayed the morale of Clay County teachers and support staff as extremely low. So do you agree or disagree with the statement? And what's your plan to address morale among employees?
So first and foremost, I will tell you that I've walked over 4,000 houses in the last 3 months. And I would tell you, not only do teachers feel that the morale is low, and I do agree with this to directly answer your question, but constituents. Brian talked about opening the newspaper often and reading the negative press. And we see that decisions are continuing to be made about adults. Morale is low because in 7 years we haven't provided the compensation, the resources to our teachers they need in order to perform their duties and enhance their craft. We can do better. We will use the Gallup surveys to look at student and teacher and lead and parent information to determine what's working, what's not, and what we can do differently in our schools. I would use the instructional cultural index from our teachers who can do a survey that's anonymous. They can tell me about professional development, evaluation, whatever we look at environment, we can look at curriculum, we can look at our observation, we can look at our feedbacks in order to problem solve, to identify what we need to focus on and how we can continue to work collectively and collaboratively with our teachers in order to make it work.
Thank you, sir.
No, I'm just asking.
Here's the question. I was just wanting to make sure that our microphone. Media portrayed the morale of Clay County teachers and support staff as low, extremely low. Do you agree or disagree? And what's your plan to address that among employees?
Well, I don't believe everything I read in the paper or watch on Action News, for starters. I believe the media's portrayal of the morale has some underpinnings in truth. Every little piece of media outlet has some underpinning in truth. I've been all over Clay County, in and out of all our schools this year and the past couple of years, and morale varies. But the thing that strikes me more than anything is teachers and support staff want to be led. And our administrators in those school buildings are leading them. We do climate surveys in the schools. When we look at our attrition rate, which is really the true indicator, are people leaving our employment to go somewhere else, our attrition rate every year is about 7%. I read in the paper, and since it was a direct quote from Dr. Beatty in Duval County, I believe it to be true. Theirs is 15%. So we're doing something right, and our attrition rate's already less than half of the school system Mr. Davis is leading.
So that's our time for the question and answer. We're going to have closing remarks, and Mr. Van Zandt, I give you the option. Would you like to go first or second here? Okay, all right. Mr. Davis, if you'd begin, 3 minutes each for closing remarks.
Okay, so thank you first and foremost for taking the opportunity to come here tonight and let me share my vision with you and my passion. As you see, I'm very excited when I talk about improving teaching and learning. I talked to you tonight about becoming a top 10 school district, and eventually a top 5. And the way we do that is build the leadership capacity of our leaders, and we build the instructional capacity of our teachers, and we work to make sure that we have a curriculum that meets our students where they are and allows them to elevate their experiences. In addition, I talked about restoring the financial stability. Once again, in the last 3 years, we've been under a reserve. We need to restore it from a local level, a state level, and a national and a federal level. On top of that, I talked tonight about one thing we got to do is we have a fragmented and a disfranchised culture. We need to create a collaborative culture, a transparent culture, and one that is student-centric, not adult-centric. And I can tell you this, this is the time where the ball is in your court. Education, everyone in here has been touched by an educator. You have the ability to vote for someone who is proven educator and has spent his whole life improving teaching and learning. It's in your court. When you go to sell your house, do you go to your neighbor? No, you don't. You go to Watson Realty. When you go to, when you break your arm and you break your leg, do you go to your friend who's not certified? No, you go to a doctor who is certified, who understands, who's an educator. Okay? When you go to a dentist, do you go to your neighbor who has bought a lot of tools and they want to work on your mouth or whatever? No, you don't. Okay? So why is it not good enough in Clay County? You should have the ability to appoint an educator, to elect an educator, not a career politician. I'm not in this for adults or a next step. I'm in this to educate every one of your children, your grandchildren, and impact your property value. People are leaving Clay County to go to St. John's. Mr. Van Zandt said last month in our debate that we can never even compare Duval County and Clay. You are absolutely correct. I served more children in 1 year than he served in his last 4 years as superintendent in 1 year. Understand this, okay? I have proven to elevate the experience. I'm telling you as a father, as a stakeholder, as a community member, as an educator, I will do what's right by kids. And I will be transparent. And I will elevate this experience by thinking differently and innovatively in hopes of bringing back the great days of Clay County and back to the top 10. I'm Addison Davis, and I am your next superintendent.
Well, good evening. I'd like to thank the church, Sacred Heart, Ms. Stewart, and REC for hosting tonight. And folks, your choices could not be more clear. The office of Superintendent of Schools is an elected office in Clay County, Florida. It is not an appointed office. I've spent my entire adult life working in two organizations, the Clay County school system for the past 18 years and the Florida Army National Guard for the past 27. This position is all about solid, conservative leadership. Yes. With that, we have seen great growth working together. The only problem with what I've heard here tonight from my opponent, as enthusiastic as he is that his rhetoric simply does not match his record. And I really encourage you to look at the charts on the wall. As an educator, it is very disingenuous to compare the FCAT, the FCAT 2.0, and the FSA, which his chart makes no delineation. That's why I made some charts tonight. You can't do apples, oranges, and ball bearings, which is what he's trying to sell you. Clay County's ratings, Clay County's marks on math, 3rd through 8th grade, civics, 3rd grade reading, high school graduation rates are all trending upward the past couple years. Now, is that all on the leader? No. That is working with our teachers, picking good curriculum. We spent about 2 years doing an elementary reading adoption, and guess what? Our 3rd graders are now reading in the top 10 in the state, ranked number 8. The other thing that I would hate to see if we buy what's being sold tonight is the fact that you could bring a career educator that doesn't have positive growth in the school system that he's leading now. Like I mentioned earlier, our 3rd grade reading went from 11th to 8th, theirs went from 45th to 48th. Duval County struggles even among the 7 large districts like Miami-Dade and Broward that you could compare it with. And he sat there a week ago and told us all at the Cattleman's that he's over the budget, curriculum, and instruction, and he runs the whole thing. So you really have to decide, do you want to trade out a financially stable leader, which we have achieved that financial stability, and it's been tough. It was tough in the first couple of years. But we've gotten there, and we're going to continue to move up. In this budget year, we've already reduced expenditures at the district level enough to create some money to look at future compensation raises. The other thing that I would really be worried about with Mr. Davis is the very prescriptive nature that the teachers in Duval County work under. In Clay County, we believe in empowering our teachers. I am Charlie Van Zandt, I am your superintendent, and I would appreciate your vote.
We got ladies and gentlemen of each of the candidates for a round of applause here. I'm going to reintroduce Leslie Weaver here for some final thoughts.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I wanted to give you two more dates. June 23rd, we will be having a sheriff's debate, and on July 14th, we will have another superintendent and school board debate, and more to come on Facebook, and we'll put it out. So thank you all for attending, and have a safe trip home.